O'clock right now, and we're going to call this meeting of the TDLR Motorcycle Safety Advisory Board to order. We are going to ask everybody to mute their microphones, turn them on only when speaking, all right? And reminder, please announce your name when speaking so that your name can be recorded. At this time, we will call on Delia Luna to do a roll call.
Thank you, sir. Jeffrey Alford,
Present.
Jude Check-Snyder, Kyle McNew,
10 o'clock right now, and we're going to call this meeting of the
Present.
Michael Manser, Robert Richmond, Ricky Wyatt, Chris Litvin,
Present.
Roger Bowles, and presiding officer Keith Rowell.
present.
We do not have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Delia.
You're
Seeing as that we do not have a quorum, we will not be able to approve our minutes from the past meeting. We did not receive any public comments for this meeting, so we'll move ahead to item E on our agenda for today, which is the discussion on the enforcement plan for the motorcycle safety program. And we would call on Jessica Hurtado, the senior prosecutor, to bring us up to date on that, please.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Jessica Hurtado, and I am a senior prosecutor in the Enforcement Division. And today I'm presenting the proposed motorcycle safety program's penalty matrix. The purpose of the penalty matrix is to specify the range of penalties and license sanctions that apply to each violation of the statutes and administrative rules for the program. And this penalty matrix applies to the motorcycle schools, instructors, and instructor training providers. And you will see on your draft that we have grouped these violations into different classes, with Class A violations being the least serious, going up to Class D violations, which are the most serious. And we've also grouped similar violations together under different subheadings. So for example, under Class A, you will see headings for motorcycle school violations, administrative violations, safety violations, and insurance violations. This penalty matrix is used by the prosecutors in the Enforcement Division to determine what is the appropriate penalty or sanction for a particular violation in an enforcement case. It also puts members of the regulated community as well as members of the public on notice of what the potential outcomes of any enforcement case may be depending on the violation that occurred. As you can see, we have a description of each potential violation that is written in a plain language, along with a citation to the applicable law or administrative rule for easy reference. And each class of violation has a range of potential penalties. This range allows our prosecutors to use discretion and take into account various factors when deciding on what an appropriate penalty would be, such as whether the respondent has had similar violations in the past or whether the respondent has taken corrective action to fix the issue. And the draft that you have before you today was discussed with the enforcement work group, and I would like to thank the members of the work group for their participation and their feedback. Your knowledge and experience that you bring into the industry helps us to ensure that the penalty matrix reflects those violations that are of the greatest importance in your program. And we did make some adjustments based on that feedback. We moved some violations up to a higher penalty group, and some violations that the work group did not consider to be as serious were moved down to a lower penalty group. And so those changes have been incorporated into the draft. Turning now to the penalty matrix, as we discussed, we start at the lowest level of the violations, which are your Class A violations. Here, the penalty range begins with $200 to $500 per violation. Next, we have a Class B violations, and that range of penalty begins at $500 up to $1,500 and/or a 1-year probated suspension. The and/or means that the prosecutor may include a penalty, they may include a sanction, or they may include both a penalty and a sanction. And let me go ahead and share my screen so you can see that. Let's see. Okay. If you could just let me know that you can see it. Okay, great. So, right. So we talked about the Class A violation penalty ranges, and you can see how they're broken out into different categories. Class B violations, as I was saying, it may have a penalty, it may have a sanction, or it may have both, with the and or. Sorry. I think, okay. Next, we're going to have Class C violations. These are some of the more serious violations, and that includes your unlicensed activity. This penalty range begins at $1,500 up to $3,000 penalty, as well as a potential 1-year probated suspension, and that can go up to a full license revocation. And then finally, we have our Class D violations. These are the most serious violations, and they include things like failing to deal honestly with the public or with the department and failing to comply with a prior order of the commission or the executive director. And the penalty range here begins at $3,000 and goes up to $5,000 and/or license revocation. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any comments that you may have. And I thank you for your time.
Keith Rovell, presiding officer. Thank you, ma'am. One question I would have is how are these violations and rules and penalties going to be distributed to all of the training sites in the state? I don't think it's enough to just post it on the TDLR website. This is different than we've ever had to deal with before.
Sure. So that's a great question. It is published in the Texas Register as well as being placed on our website. But I'm sure that our communications folks can also send out an email blast if that's something that we think we need to do as well.
I think that would be very helpful.
And if I could just weigh in, Jessica, this is Derek Burkhalter, Assistant General Counsel. And I just want to point out that these are not new violations. This is just matching up the rule text to the penalty range. And so these should not be new concepts. These are just basically putting a number to a violation of each rule. So I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anyone. I mean, it does not add any new violations that may occur. This is just a way of translating our rule text into a penalty guideline. So it's not really a substantive change of any kind. This just tells our prosecutors and the public what the possible amounts or penalties might be for violating any rule. So that just to give a little bit of clarification. And is my audio coming through okay, Delia?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sounds great. That new mic is working great.
Good. I'm so glad.
Okay, are there any additional questions or discussions on this? Seeing none, hearing none. Thank you. We will move on. Item F on our agenda is the discussion and possible recommendations on proposed amendments to existing rules. And Derek,
do not need to read.
I believe that it's going to be you.
Great, thank you. I was just going to tell you, you don't have to read that whole
Thank you.
list of numbers there. Again, I'm Derek Burkhalter, Assistant General Counsel for TDLR, assigned to this program. Let me share my screen really quick. Let's see. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the rule text here. I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this agenda item is discussing the rules that we looked at during our last meeting. We did publish these in the Texas Register on September 22nd, and that started the 30-day public comment period, and that ended on October 23rd of this year. So we received only 2 comments from the public. They weren't really like large or I guess groundbreaking sort of comments, but I just wanted to kind of walk you through what they are. So the first was they were looking at our definitions section here in 98.10 and the definition of training site. The public comment was to consider removing this phrase consisting of a classroom and range. Let's see. I want to make sure, can everyone see the public comment on the right side here? I want to make sure I'm sharing the right document. Okay. So they just wanted to remove this phrase because they pointed out that some curricula do not require an actual physical classroom. And that's true. However, in 98.100, which gives the training site requirements, we specifically state that a physical classroom is not required. So I'm not recommending that we make this change right now anyway, because we have already specified that in the rule text in rule 98.100. And I can show you that. Let's see. Okay, this should be the rule text. So 98.100 is our training site requirements. You can see A says that the training site must include, and then 3 talks about a classroom. But then in subsection B here, we added that this does not require a classroom to be a physical building and does not prohibit a virtual classroom conducted online. So because of that, I don't think we need to change the definition at this time. But it may be something we want to clean up later when we go and make some adjustments for those online courses. Okay, I'm going back to the rule text.
Derek, can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
Jeff Alford, advisory board member. I want people to remember that this program is governed, or rather this program governs more than just MSF curricula. It also includes all the other programs that are subsidiary to this board. So it includes things that still do require a classroom.
That's a good point. Thank you. Okay. Let me go to the... Okay, there was a public comment. So this is section 98.21. This is our license eligibility requirements for the instructor license. So in our last meeting, we had the board voted to remove this item 7, the requirement to possess current first aid and CPR certification. And the public comment, they agreed with removing CPR, but they felt that it was still reasonable to require first aid. I'm not recommending any change based on that comment because it's just kind of an opinion and it doesn't give any additional information to kind of go against what the advisory board had already voted on. So unless, someone here feels strongly, I think we'll go ahead and leave it the way the board voted on last time, which is to remove the whole provision. The next comment was skipping down to section 98.50. This is the reporting requirements. You'll remember we changed reporting each incident to reporting each injury. The public commenter said they wholeheartedly agree with this. So it's always good to get a positive comment. Scrolling down to 98.70, instructor responsibilities. Going to this section about the student provided motorcycle meeting the insurance requirements. There was actually a mistaken citation here. This should actually be changed to 98.102B2. And just to show you why that is. So 98.102 is our motorcycle requirements, and you'll see in B2, B is talking about student provided motorcycles, and B2 talks about the insurance that they must have. So that was just an incorrect cross citation that we're just correcting. Okay. Scrolling down to 98.104 student admission requirements. You'll remember we removed these provisions about needing a Class C learner's license or proof of completing driver education. The commenter is basically asking, are we assuming that the traffic law testing will occur separately when they go to get their license? And the answer is yes. They're not learning traffic laws in these motorcycle courses. They're going to have to go take that driver education and pass those tests as a separate component before they get their motorcycle license with DPS or their regular driver license with the motorcycle endorsement. So that's something, we're not teaching them the traffic law aspect. So just to make that clear, that's something DPS will require. So we don't need to address it in our rules. And that's why we felt it was acceptable to go ahead and remove all of this. So we're not recommending a change based on that. And so that was the end of the public comments. I'll go ahead and open it up to the group for any thoughts, any questions, any feedback.
Jeff Alford, Advisory Board Member. My only comment to the first aid is if a business still feels that it is a good to have, they can absolutely still require that as a condition of employment or subcontract or however they want to do it. It does not need to be mandated by us.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, schools are still free to impose additional requirements on their employees or their contractors. Okay, so because we don't have a quorum today, we can't take a vote as a full advisory board. However, we did look at these rules in our last meeting, and the advisory board made changes that they all agreed with, or at least a majority agreed with. So because we didn't have any public comments that really were groundbreaking or really pointed out a necessity for additional changes, other than the one missed citation that I mentioned, our plan is to go ahead and take these to the commission at its December 1st meeting coming up, so that they can go ahead and adopt these, so they'll be effective by January 1st. So the fact that, we didn't have a quorum today doesn't really affect our ability to continue and take them to the commission. And, we've at least received your feedback on one occasion, and the few of you who were here today have had the opportunity to give feedback as well. So that's our plan with these rules, and also with the enforcement plan that Jessica just presented. We'll go ahead and take those to the commission at its December 1st meeting.
Thank you, Derek. Are there any additional questions, discussions, or comments about this? All right, seeing none and hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item G, talking about the agenda items for our next board meeting. Are there any recommendations for items to put on the agenda for the next meeting?
Mr. Ravel,
Yes,
just to
ma'am.
let you know, we will have the meetings of August 31st and for approval at the next meeting.
Very good. Okay, I would, Keith Ravel, presiding officer, I would also like to suggest an item that merits discussion. It has been brought to my attention on numerous occasions by more than a dozen people that are having difficulties, that we are having issues getting site licenses and instructor licenses handled in a proficient, good manner. I think it would merit a discussion on the board to talk about that and possibly come up with some suggestions that might assist the agency to make that a little more streamlined, or that would help you all be able to get that done in an efficient manner. Board members, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Chris Lippin, advisory board member. I would second that. And also, maybe we can provide input on, as sponsors and rider coaches, we're consumers of this process, and maybe provide some feedback on what we would like to see from the process. For example, a better way to know what the status of our requests are. Because sometimes we send things out and they don't come back. It'd be nice if there was a way to verify that TDLR has received it, is processing it, whatever. It needs more information on it or something, instead of just not having feedback, for in any time frame.
Keith Ravel, presiding officer. One additional thing in line with all of this, could we get somebody from the IT department to come in and perhaps update us on the status of the new database that will be online, so that we'll have access to that and be able to quickly and easily look up licenses for sites, businesses, and instructors? Okay, are there any other ideas for the agenda?
And if y'all think of any other items for the agenda, y'all can always email me as well.
Thank you. All right, we move on to item H, and that's the discussion of the date, time, and location of our next meeting. And Ms. Luna, I'll turn that over to you.
Okay. I will poll for a next board meeting. Derek, I don't know. I know that these rules and will have to be approved by the commission. So can you take that away, please?
Yeah, so as I said, we'll be presenting these rules to the commission on December 1st, along with the enforcement plan, to be effective by January 1st. We don't have any other bill implementation that requires rulemaking other than what we've already just done. So there's nothing, I guess, urgent as far as rulemaking that needs to be done. But if y'all have any ideas for rule changes that need to be made, of course, email myself or Delia, and we can set up work group meetings to initiate those discussions. And that may trigger the need for a future meeting. But right now we have nothing kind of foreseeable coming up as far as the necessity for a meeting. But as always, let us know if you have something.
Very good. Thank you. Anything additional, board members? If not, well, this, I think, may be a record.
Looks like Kyle has his hand up.
It's Kyle. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Keith. Derek, if I'm correct, if we're not going to have any more board meetings, looks like through the end of the year, this is my last official meeting as I'm going off the board. But I wanted to say thank you to all the staff, Derek, Delia, everybody at TDLR and Fortran. I enjoyed working with you guys. As far as my fellow board members, I will say thank you. It's been a great opportunity to get to know you. I've talked to some of you personally on the back channels about trying to make things better of the process that we were involved with over the last couple of years. But seriously, some friendships and a lot of admiration for the work that everybody puts in. And I just hope that y'all continue to move forward and continue to make motorcycle riding very safe in our state. And I know we've got a long ways to go, but I think we've got some good people doing it. And so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Kyle, and thank you for all your work on the board too. We've appreciated your input. Anyone else? Hearing none, seeing no hands. It is 10:26, and we will announce that the meeting is adjourned. Thank